Next up is our discussion of the 2025-26 budget. And this is a little different than we've usually done. We usually every year have a presentation of unmet needs that we review at this point and kind of talk through the departments present. We were not given the opportunity to sort of look at that list in the same way this year. This is a very busy time for the departments. They're in the middle of answering council budget questions now, and I did not feel like the week before budget adoption was a kind time to ask them to pull together large presentations explaining their budgets. So we move forward with the expectation that they're available to answer questions on anything budget related that we have. So that is what they are here for. They are prepared for that. Christy helped us circulate council budget questions and presentations so that people could, prep a little bit in advance if possible. And with that, do we have anything specific to kick off? Would you guys like me to kick off with a question? I think one question that I did give everyone, the chiefs of staff, was just if they could give us a little bit of an explanation of the impacts on staffing that the budget as proposed would have. So if the departments could just, I know that there's changes to overtime and such. So if you guys could just let us know a little bit about that, just big loaded question.
Sure. So just to double check, you're saying that the first question, are you soliciting for questions, or was your first question on staffing?
I'm asking the chiefs of staff. That is sort of one question that I kind of queued up I let them know that we would want to know about staffing impacts based on the current budget, the way it's outlined. But if anybody else has more questions, we can get started with that as well.
Yeah, so Chair, if I can, one of my questions is really how does this budget affect some of the non-field and operational departments within each of the respective public safety offices? For instance, with the wildfire division, how does it impact their staffing and their work, as opposed to, I know there's going to also be talks about staffing shortages and how that would work. But I'm wondering on the operational end for some preparedness activities and things like that. And then similarly to whatever the police department has and what EMS has in terms of the things that might not be field related, but do impact community engagement. That makes sense.
Yep. I think that is a great place to start, just in terms of operational impacts. Potential, I guess, are you asking for impacts on things beyond response time, beyond our more sort of usual focus of staffing impacts? Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Since he brought up wildfire specifically, I guess I'll go first. So in this current fiscal year, there was an ask to reduce the budget by 1.5% just to get to the end of the fiscal year from all of the general fund departments. And with that, we did have some staff personnel move back to operations to assist with that. It's as the budget process unfolds for fiscal year 26, it's the intent that would lead us back to those folks going back to their normal assignments or those positions being refilled in the staff, different staff locations. Some of those were in our wildfire division. With those folks being pulled out, there was temporarily, there was some reassessment of items to make sure that we prioritized the efforts. As I talked about the sizes earlier, there is the training the community so that they can help us as a force multiplier to get those done for the safety and well-being of the various properties and homes. There are a few other items there that are in the discussions on this budget process that are part of the wildfire division as well, and the battalion. There's some material items in there that we'll see how those conversations continue to unfold as council still works through their TRE conversations.
Yeah, I'm happy to go next. Wes Hopkins with Austin Travis County EMS. We did not see any increases in our authorized strength for sworn, but we also did not see any reduction in our authorized strength. We do have an academy class that just started in July, and so we are in the budget working through what overtime dollars look like to staff ambulances, which is why that academy staff is so important. And so we'll continue to plug away at those vacancies. Very similarly, we did take some of our admin folks and put them into operations, but we didn't move them out of operations. We delegated them a day that they would come and work in the 911 system on their single unit responders. That gets that advanced life support asset to the patient, especially on those higher priority calls. It also has the added benefit that allows them to stay conversant in operations so that they're not in those admin spots and segregated from the 911 side. So that's how we have approached that.
Sorry, Chief. Do you mind if I just ask also, does this affect other programs like the community paramedicine program? I know that's kind of operational, but it's a different type of field work.
Right. So we have those community health paramedics that are doing their job, and then one day a week they work a shift in their single unit responder in operations running 911 calls. But because they're still doing the same job, that community health paramedic job, whether it be case management or mental health response, they're like a multi-tool for us. And so they can kind of flex and do both jobs at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Robin Henderson, Chief of Staff for the Austin Police Department. And so when it comes to our budget for this year, we've done a reallocation of officers to patrol to help offset the budget impacts related to overtime. And so those moves will be happening on August 24th of this year. In addition, I know that we do have a temporary hiring freeze just on any postings for our civilian positions. We were at about a 6.9% vacancy rate, so right now it's having minimal impacts. However, there has not been a reduction in our sworn allocation, and we are still continuing with our cadets classes and recruiting.
I have a follow-up question for Chief Henderson. She circulated the Barry Dunn report that everybody should have had in their email, and there was it's a big document. It's a very lengthy document, but there are a lot of places in the Barry Dunn report where, in order to do some of that staff reallocation to patrol, like APD is currently doing, it also recommends doing those alongside civilian staff, like increasing civilian staff, transferring duties to potentially retired personnel that can come back in and do investigative, like paperwork sort of stuff. Are there plans to implement that part of the Barry Dunn report?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. So please note that that is a draft document. So Barry Dunn has not completed their final version of that. That was just a draft document. But part of that evaluation process, once we do have the final version, is looking at, are there ways that we can civilianize some of the work that officers do, therefore freeing up that time in order to, of course, do more police-related duties. But that is part of the Barry Dunn evaluation.
Okay. Do we have any additional questions? I have a list, but I don't want to hog time. Commissioner Smith.
You can always hog time. My question is for APD. Can I get some clarity on the allocation reflected in the budget related to counsel at first appearance and what services specifically APD is providing and what that I'm just trying to better understand the math behind. I want to say it was $6 million for indigent defense in relation to Austin Police Department services. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. I believe you're speaking towards the Travis County interlocal agreement related to the booking process. And so understand that The Austin Police Department does not have a booking facility. And so therefore, Travis County handles the booking or handling of any arrest that APD made. And in order to do that, we contract with them to handle that processing. However, the counsel at first appearance is going to be handled by Travis County and making sure that that process is implemented, if you will. So this is more so a contract to have Travis County manage the individuals that are arrested and transported to their jail. And this is not a new ILA. We've had an ILA with Travis County for as long as I can remember. They're the stewards of any persons that we take into custody.
Okay, because how it's being framed is that there is going to be APDs getting paid $6 million for counsel at first appearance. That's how it's being framed in the public. So I just wanted clarification on what that actually meant. So it's not APD has a windfall. You're saying it's not APD is getting $6 million in the interlocal agreement for services provided. It is, in fact, go ahead.
That's correct. APD is paying Travis County for that interlocal agreement in order to manage people that are taken into custody by APD.
10-4. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other questions from the commission? I actually wanted to ask, so there are tax rate election scenarios, and I know that we are very much in the current budget that has been laid out, minus the tax rate election scenarios, has all of the departments having to make choices. What do the tax rate elections expand? Like, what does it allow you to expand? What comes with that additional money? What are the main changes if they can be encapsulated that way?
All right. So for the fire department, it's not a matter of expansion. It's a matter of maintaining the current staffing that we have. Those are the without any substantive changes to ordinance maybe or other particular items. That's what we're seeing in the TREs for us.
Yeah, so a similar answer for Austin Travis County EMS. We certainly are using that TRE to continue to fund things. And some of that could look like increased education for paramedics. It could look at staffing and comm, but there are many, many different variables of when that's passed about how we would allocate that money. So we, much like the other agencies, we're working through that as well.
Okay.
And same for APD.
Okay. Go ahead.
So as a follow-up on that, and I recognize that nothing is final and still being worked through with council, but if we're going to try to think of a synopsis, if there is no TRE and we go at the maximum of 3.5%, what would each of your departments, just sort of high level, do you think would be different comparing this current year versus what that budget would look like next year if that wasn't able to be done?
I think that's hard to say. I think that'll be some difficult decisions for City Hall and for the council members as they reevaluate how to move forward if a TRE is not passed. I don't know if that means the current things proposed stay or if they make adjustments along the way. I think it might be a little too early to speculate on what that looks like if that ends up being the end result that a TRE is not passed.
Yeah, just high level for us, it may look like the education that the paramedics receive currently in the EMTs would be just like it is today. Whereas if the TRE were to pass, that we might be allocated additional hours to allow them to have additional training because we know that the medicine is advancing and things of that nature.
And yes, same for APD. I think it's too early to tell as to what is it we would have to potentially modify or change when it comes to that, because we are on the heels of course, the FY26 budget potentially being approved. And so trying to understand how we would have to balance that impact if the TRE doesn't go, I think it's too early to tell.
I actually had a specific question about, I know we spend a lot of time talking about we have a unique relationship with the CSCRM, but could you talk a little bit about whether or not these staffing changes and this budget is going to be impacting the DV unit and the sex trafficking unit, specifically the child sex trafficking unit? Are those units going to be impacted by that?
So the Collective Sex Crimes Response Model Working Group will not be impacted by that. Neither was our human trafficking or our DV units. And I'm going to have to check my records. I believe there was an addition of a sergeant to DV, but prior to, because we knew that we were working on this reallocation, I believe that sergeant was potentially there or scheduled to go there, but because we did this reallocation, that sergeant did not go to the DV unit. I'm pretty certain it's the DV unit, but there was a lot of movements. But I'm happy to follow up with the commission on that. But any kind of other operational impacts is not related to either the family violence or the Collective Sex Crimes Response Working Group, or either to the DV unit.
And then the other department that I had a question about specifically was the training academy. I do know that there were quite a bit of people that were sent back out to, or are being sent out to back to patrol from that unit. How are you guys? So, history of lots of promotions and changes at the academy, and we're doing that all over again. How are you guys accommodating for that? How are you addressing making that big, huge change again?
No, yes, ma'am. So please note that the notification that the transition of officers back to patrol was made essentially 2 months in advance. So this was in June that the notification was made. So therefore, we made selections of sergeants to replace not all the officers. There's going to be 6 officers that remain, but the bulk of the bulk of the training instructors that are there are officer positions, and they are being reallocated to patrol. And that transition will happen on the 24th of August. And so there has been, as soon as we understood the positions and how that transition was going to happen, we selected supervisors or sergeants that were replacing those positions to start heading out to the training academy to get trained up, to start understanding the operations, have that cross-collaboration happen for a 2-month period prior to those instructors that are currently out there having to transition to patrol. So they are currently there now, currently going through certification processes, certainly getting up to speed, of course, on the CROL recommendations and everything that comes along with being out at the training academy. And so there's a 2-month window, which is unique. Typically, we do not have 2 months to do a transition or a changeover like this. Understanding it is kind of a larger group, so we are in a unique circumstance in that regard too. But we were intentional about making sure we identified the right supervisors to head out there, and then had a larger transition window for that training or crossover training to occur.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any additional questions? I think I'll just close with, I think we all know that public safety is impacted by lots of departments across the city, not just you guys, and it's part of why we've been having our conversations about, potentially expanding the organizations that sit at the table when we have bylaws. There are collaboration that you guys do with HSO, with the Sobering Center, with the Downtown Community Court. There's just, there's the Trauma Recovery Center. There's just a lot of different organizations that you guys collaborate with. Do you guys see any potential, again, I know this is a not adopted budget yet, but do you guys have any foresight into how those partnerships may be getting impacted with some of your other organizations that you guys cooperate with?
So, if I'm understanding your correction right, our collaboration with the departments won't be affected by the budget. It might be the speed and pace that certain things are accomplished, but our collaboration with other city departments on a variety of things We might have to look at processes maybe a little bit different, but as far as making sure that we're doing the best collaboratively for service delivery to the community is not going to be affected at all by whatever this budget may come out to be.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have any insight, but certainly we are hyper-focused on evaluating those and what the budgetary process looks like. I think it's too early to tell, but we are definitely engaged in watching it.
And for APD, our collaboration with other city departments will continue. Understand all the departments are in a similar situation when it comes to the budget, and we're all having to adjust. But there's not going to be a reduction in our collaboration. We understand the importance of maintaining that intersectionality when it comes to our work, and we definitely will maintain that.
And so I guess there's going to be a little bit of time in between budget adoption, well, not a lot of time, and then when this next fiscal year starts, because it starts October, correct? Is that correct? October 1st. So we'll have about 6 weeks. In those 6 weeks is when most of the major changes that you guys are going to be undergoing that will be the deadline, October 1st. And then we won't know about a tax rate election until November. And I guess I know that we don't know what we don't know, but that November tax rate election, deadline certainly looms. It seems like a really long time to sort of not know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know that that's a question. That's just, this is not fun. This is not fun. I acknowledge it's not fun for the departments either. This has been what has felt on the citizen end. I know I'm sitting here as a commission, but I am just very much an average citizen that watches council meetings and does my best to keep up. This has been a very difficult budget cycle to actually participate in. This feels like an even more compacted budget cycle than it usually is. We've had very little insight. We normally, like I mentioned at the top of this agenda item, have opportunity to, at the very least, get a look at what we're not getting in the budget, so that we can pass a recommendation and move forward some priorities for ourselves. I know that as a commission, we got to put forth budget recommendations back in March, but that process is very disconnected from the reality that we find ourselves in now. It's very much a wish list and a review of things that we've talked about and may have established as priorities over the course of the year. And I'm assuming that other commissions are feeling just as disconnected from this budget process. This does not feel normal. This does not feel, dare I say, democratic. So I'm hoping, I guess we'll just see what happens in the next week. I know that there are lots of organizations that are engaged with city council offices. I encourage everybody that's watching at home, and our commissioners here as well, is that if there's anything that you care deeply about, that you don't see it in the budget, or you do see it in the budget, or you see something, to please reach out to your council members. We have very little window left. We have a week, basically 10 days. There's budget meeting tonight in District 5 if anybody wants to rush out and make that one. I think it's the last one. So with that, I guess unless we have any other questions, we will move on. Commissioner Nguyen?
Chair, just so you know, there's also one for Council Member Mark Tushin on the 6th as well. So.
Oh, great. Thank you for that. So there's one tonight at 6 o'clock, and then there's one on the 6th. So, okay, thank you.